Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Devasesha Sanyavadi Pashtatala Sathanine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. I'm just going to share my screen and share this picture, which this is what we looked at last week. So presently, Gopal Kumar is in, as far as I can understand, he's in Tapaloka. He's in Tapaloka. And this is one material universe, as we mentioned last week. So what we've been reading so far is just been about this section here. Now here's another picture. Let me which gives you the context of this one universe in relationship to the spiritual world. I'm going to share this one here. Did that get shared? Yeah. So you can see?
Yes, we can.
So like where the cursor is, this is what we're reading about the moment here. And there's many millions and millions of universes which contain millions and millions of planets. So what we're going to be reading eventually, probably in today's reading, we might see that Gopal Kumar goes to Brahmaloka. And then from there, he's going to enter here. He's going to enter Vaikuntha. Here, the different Vaikuntha planets. Then eventually, without spoiling the end of the story, but I think we're
we want to know.
He's going to come here to Goloka Vrindavan.
Haribo.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So at the moment, he's way down here.
Mm.
And already he's progressed very, very dramatically when we heard about the different realms that he's entered into compared to our insignificant Earth planet. It's full of wonder, full of astonishment. But this is just within the egg-like material universe. So his journey is going to take him right here into Vaikuntha. All right.
Mulipur, how long will it take us to go to there?
Long time.
We are trying very, very hard.
Yeah, we shall be so blessed. Let's keep on serving Krishna.
Thank you for giving us wonderful classes.
Right, let's share the screen again, and I can share the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. Okay, here we are. Hare Krishna, Brhad Bhagavatamrta.
I was going to
self-repeating back, but anyway, as usual. Yes, Mother Chandravali?
Sorry, I was going to tell you, today somehow or other I got onto a class by Romapad Swami.
Yeah.
And talking about Gopal Kumar.
Okay.
All about his commitment to receive the fullness of his Guru's gift. That is the Gopal mantra that he got.
Yes.
What that led him to. It's really nice with pictures. If anybody, I don't have to send it because it was on YouTube. I happen to just.
Oh, if you could, that would be nice to see how he's presented that.
Yeah, with pictures of how he first met this sannyasi, the sadhu, how he came.
Yeah, as we've been reading, yes.
Yes. And then he met the sadhu 3 times.
He what?
He met his gurus 3 times.
Yes, we heard about the second meeting. We've yet to hear about the third meeting.
Yeah. So how the Gopal mantra is the most important, and the deities is Madan Mohan,
Yeah, Madan Mohan. He's chanting the Gopal mantra.
Yeah, Romapad Maharaj gives lovely classes, the way he talks.
Yeah, I do listen to his classes.
I have a few of them so nicely.
Could you find that again, Mother Chandravali, and just send me the link to that?
will. Yes, I will. I will try
That'd
and
be great to see. I like to hear.
because the pictures are really nice next to it and his explanation. Really
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
All right. Okay. Let's start reading. Let's see where we're going to go today. Today's where Gopal Kumar is going to go. So remember the context. There's a conversation which is quite in depth and quite in detail about from the point of view of the sage Pipalayana, where they're in Satchaloka, and their method of worship is meditation, mystic meditation upon the Lord. So they're glorifying that process. That was okay. So Mother Sacha, you can read. It came up automatically. I presume we're here. Anyone can correct us?
100, that's what. 100, text 100.
Text 100. We're on text 100.
Okay. Yeah, I was scrolling. After last week's session, I was reading a little bit ahead and I went back. So text 100. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Text 100. The Supreme Lord, by nature the bestower of ecstasy, creates such unlikely situations to delight his devotees by showing them the greatness of devotional service. Commentary. When the finite self has been perceived in its true form, someone may argue there remains no opportunity for mistakes and suffering. So, when the concentrated embodiment of the Supreme Truth, the infinite personality of Godhead, has been perceived, how can faults and unhappiness possibly continue unabated? In the current verse, the sage Pipalayana clears this doubt. The Supreme Lord Narayan can do what is supposed to be impossible, just as he can perform such a miracle as causing fire to give up its nature of emanating heat. He can hide his nature of giving joy to the entire universe. His reason for doing this is to demonstrate a particular feature of the glories of devotional service. Although bhakti, like the Lord himself, naturally emanates ecstasy without fail. Only the Lord's devotees relish bliss, the non-devotees taste the opposite feeling. When the Lord reveals this aspect of the glory of devotional service, those who are dedicated to him become enlivened because they know that such examples will ultimately attract everyone to the bhakti process. How can the Lord make the essential character of his devotional service disappear? After all, fire can never stop giving heat. That may be true, but the personality of Godhead has manifold, inconceivable energies, and by their arrangement, even when the Supreme Lord becomes visible, only persons endowed with pure devotion taste ecstasy. Others cannot perceive it. Thus, we find that sometimes very advanced devotees express their approval of the fear, pain, and other such emotions suffered by non-devotees. As Sri Yudhishthira said in connection with Shishupal and Dantavakra. Although these two men repeatedly blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, Krishna, the Supreme Brahman, they were quite healthy. Indeed, their tongues were not attacked by white leprosy, nor these men enter the darkest region of hellish life. We are certainly most surprised by this Bhagavatam 7:19. Devotees like Yudhishthira approve of severe punishment for enemies of the Lord who indulge in criticizing and abusing the Lord because the terrible fear and agony the offender suffers in reaction serve as effective counteraction, prayaschitta, for their egregious sins, and in the end, the offenders gain the highest benefit by becoming devotees. Text 101. Of the 9 kinds of devotional service, remembrance is the chief. It is an offering of the activity of the mind, the most important of all the senses. Commentary. The sage's idea is that remembrance, smarana, is superior to other devotional processes like hearing and chanting, sravana and kirtana, because remembrance involves absorbing the mind in thoughts of the personality of Godhead, whereas hearing and chanting engage only the senses of hearing and speech, which are subordinate to the mind and therefore less important. Text 102.
Just
Only the
stop here. How we are normally here different than this, isn't it? Shravanam Kirtanam is often spoken about as being the foremost practice, which it is in this age of Kali. Because without Shravanam Kirtanam, there's going to be nothing to remember. Unless we're hearing and chanting, what are we going to remember? There's no chance of being any smaranam. But still here, Pippalayana is coming from another angle. He's glorifying smaranam. And interesting how he does, because the mind is the most important. It's the king of the senses. So Savayamana Krishna Pada Vindyo. So if the mind is absorbed in devotional service, then the other senses come into line. Anyway, just to remind you of the kind of dichotomy which is being described here. Okay. You can continue unless there's any questions or comments.
Okay. Only the mind fixed in meditation can unceasingly offer the Lord that offering which is the most confidential, loving devotional service that follows one's natural taste. Commentary. The sage Pippalayana reasons that although Gnana and Vairagya bring one close to the absolute truth, only devotional service in prema brings one into the most intimate proximity. And prema can develop only by full concentration of the mind, since only the mind, the superintendent of all the senses, can properly engage each sense with its objects. Devotional service rendered with the mind is secure, for it is unlikely to become disrupted. Text 103 to 105. There is one goal of all disciplines, one highest attainment of all. The one potent means to bring the Supreme Lord under one's control. Only by the mercy of the Lord can it be gained. It is the rare, exclusive treasure of his devotees, a treasure rich with every sort of transcendental ecstasy and sweetness. Its wonderful glories are beyond the power to describe. That attainment is called prema. It arises from special transformations of the functions of the mind. Commentary. To uphold and further explain the statement of the previous verse, text 103 through 105 describe 7 characteristics of love of God. First, prema is the goal of all such disciplines as karma, gnana, and vairagya. Second, it is the ultimate goal of existence. So, even though worship of the Supreme Lord is superior to religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, prema is the superior to formal worship. Prema, in fact, is the very goal of worship. Third, prema is the only sure means to bring the absolutely independent Lord under control. It is the chain with which the Lord's dearest devotees bind his lotus feet to subdue him, as one would subdue a mad elephant. Fourth, prema is attained only by the favor of the Supreme Person, never by one's own strength. Fifth, prema is the greatest treasure of the Lord's devotees. Indeed, their only treasure, for it easily fulfills all their desires. Sixth, it is full to overflowing with the varieties of transcendental bliss, so attractive that they ridicule the so-called ecstasy found in impersonal realization of the Supreme. And therefore, seventh, its infinite glories are beyond description. From the sixth of these traits of prema, we can deduce another 2 confidentials for Pippalayana Rishi to mention. Devotees established in prema join the Supreme Lord in his pleasure pastimes. We will hear about this from the Lord's personal associates in later chapters. But on Tapaloka, where meditation is predominant, the topic is not befitting to discuss.
Yeah,
Text 106.
just
Yeah.
although it does sound wonderful what Pippalayana is speaking about, in comparison to the prema exhibited in the Lord's personal abode amongst his associates, obviously their whole being is absorbed in Krishna. Their mind, like Mother Yasoda's mind, is absorbed in Krishna, and Radharani's mind is obviously absorbed in Krishna to an unprecedented degree. But they're actually engaged in Leela and pastimes with the Lord. So it seems like here we described here, like that's being not spoken of yet. But as we understand, Gopal Kumar will experience or will hear about that, and then desire to also see and taste that as well. So it's the first time we're speaking about prema here in this particular section. Interesting. But we don't have time to look at all those different glories of prema, but it's quite significant. Any questions or comments here? Yeah, devotees establishing prema join the Supreme Lord in his pleasure pastime. So much more, and also they engage in loving service, isn't it? That's how we can say that it's superior than just mere meditation. Although engaging loving service of the Lord, it doesn't. The mind needs to be present for the full effect of that to be manifest within the self. The mind has, just like chanting japa, okay, the mind has to be absorbed in the name, then we get a real benefit. But anyway, Hare Krishna. We've got a few readers today. Let's call on the next one. Anupama, you like to read? And then we'll have Mother Gaya, then Mother Kunumai. Anupama.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, yeah. Text
107.
6, yeah. If you think that focusing the mind in meditation is too difficult, or if you're eager to see the personality of Godhead to fulfill the purpose of your eyes, then go to Bharatavarsha. There you'll find our Lord residing on Gandhamatana mountain as Narayana, the friend of Nara. Commentary. Perhaps Gopal Kumar feels himself unfit to achieve samadhi by yoga meditation, or perhaps he thinks that although samadhi may be easily available by the natural influence of Tapaloka or by the power of his mantra, that samadhi will satisfy only his mind and not the eyes. In that case, he can gratify his eyes by going to see Lord Narayana on the earth.
Yeah, so back down again he goes. Yeah. Back down to Burma.
Yeah. Text 108. We devotees of Yoga Samadhi see Lord Narayana both within ourselves and without. And so, there being no danger of our suffering pain due to separation from the Lord, he went to Gandhamadana. Commentary. Gandhamadana. Yeah. Commentary. The sages on Tapaloka need go nowhere else to see the forms of the Lord they worship. They see the Lord within their hearts on the strength of the meditation, and that inner vision presents itself externally wherever they look.
Yeah, one point to mention here is that Pipalayana speaks about the superiority of meditation, in that specifically there's no danger of suffering pain due to separation, but actually the highest ecstasy is separation. The highest, the most intense meditation upon Krishna, as we hear, as Lord Chaitanya teaches and is exhibited by specifically Radharani, is actually separation. That is an actual ecstasy, which the devotees relish. Although externally it seems like suffering or pain, but actually it's another flavor of devotional ecstasy, and a very intense one. So, seems like Pipalayana is not, or if he is aware, he's not making it known. That we've read about before in here in his Brihad Bhagavatamrta, isn't it? Remember we was reading about Krishna's feeling separation from Vrindavan itself. Remember that part we was reading?
Yes,
When he was in Dwarka. Yeah.
They were all trying to pacify, even Lord Balaram.
Yeah, I was trying to pacify him.
Yeah.
And as we know from reading from our studies of Nectar of Devotion and Prabhupada's explanation, and the feelings of Brhad play a very important part in a devotee's development. And we'll be reading about that coming up in Sankara Kaumudi as well. Anyway, just thought I'd mention that point. Any comments on that? Otherwise, you can continue.
Text 109.
Yeah.
Living there as a guru in the science of weaponry, he dresses as a brahmachari. His hair is matted locks and performs severe austerities as an instruction for the benefit of the world. Commentary. Lord Narayan teaches the world how to perform austerities for spiritual advancement. He carries a bow and is expert in its use. Text 110. Sri Gopal Kumar said, observing that I was eager to go there, the four brothers headed by Sanaka told me, yes, he's right here, and showed me many forms of the Lord. Text 111. One brother assumed the form of Narayan, other than of Vishnu, another the Lord of sacrifice, and the last assumed several different forms. Commentary. The first brother, Sanaka, turned himself into the form of Lord Narayana. His other brother showed Lord Vishnu's form as Vamandev, as Lord Nrsimha, as Lord Yagnaveshwara, who appears on Mahaloka, and as several other avatars of Vishnu.
Yes, so it just seems here it's not just Pipalina, huh? The sage Pipalina, but it's also the four Kumaras. Yeah, I couldn't make that out before, but it seems like they're both present speaking to Gopal Kumar. Being the four Kumaras exemplify what Pipalayana is glorifying, this mystic meditation. Just to mention that, just in case that was confusing.
Are they all on the same planet?
It seems like, yeah, because we just heard about Pipalayana speaking, and now we're hearing about the four Kumaras. The four brothers headed by Shanak told me to see is right here. So now they're exhibiting the power of their samadhi.
So the Nav-yogendras are also seeing the Lord in the heart.
Yeah, they're meditating. Yeah, they are Shanta Bhaktas, meditating upon the Lord within the heart. Meditation. Shanta Bhakta, Shanta Bhakti, with no specific service apart from meditation.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, you can continue, Anupama.
Okay, text 112. Trembling with fear, I joined my palms, bowed down, and said, I have surely offended you. O kind friends of the fallen, please forgive me. Text 113. They touched my head, and I attained a meditative trance in which I directly saw those various forms of the Lord. And even after I got up from meditating, by the momentum of my trance, I would sometimes behold, as if nearby, those same forms of God. Commentary. Gopal Kumar, his mind nearly perfect in concentration, needed only this additional blessing from the Kumaras to behold the fruits of Samadhi. Although the japa meditation he had performed in various places had been naive and without scientific understanding of yoga practice, it was equivalent to many years of strict practice of meditation in the elevated atmosphere of Tapaloka. Text 114. Then my japa easily improved to quality and became more joyful, but my mind was still agitated by thoughts of this sweet land of Raj. Commentary. Again, the time came for Gopal Kumar to move on. Text 114 through 117 describe the circumstances under which he lost his attachment for remaining in Tapaloka. He was chanting his mantra better thanks to his concentration of mind and his vision of the Supreme Lord. But the more intensely he chanted, the more he remembered Sri Vrindavan forest and his other favorite places in Raj Bhumi. And these thoughts in separation from Raj were painful. Text 115. Sometimes my chanting and my visualization of the Lord's various forms would be disrupted when I fell into a state resembling deep sleep. Commentary. As a second effect of samadhi, all mental and sensory activities may temporarily cease, and one may enter a kind of void state similar to deep sleep everyone goes through at night. In that state, Gopakumara was unable to chant his mantra or see the Lord's personal forms. I would lament over this and consider going to Nilachala. The residents of Tapaloka would console me and ask what I was going through. Commentary. After passing through these world-like states, Gopakumara would say to himself, "How unfortunate I am! What is this unexpected disturbance?" He would then want to go see Lord Jagannath in Nilachala, when he never had to deal with such obstacles to his service. Pipalayana and the other Tapaloka Vasis tried to pacify him with sweet words and asked him what was going on in his mind. Text 117. Hearing my description so full of anguish, the sages would praise my state. I could not understand their praise because I thought what I was going through was troublesome. Commentary. Hearing Gopakumar describe his predicament, the sages were impressed that he had very quickly attained a rare state of pure trance. But either out of ignorance or because of his natural devotional attitude, he was unable to understand what was so wonderful about the lapses of consciousness. Text 118. By the power of yoga practice, I would then see the Lord of the universe all around me. I saw him within and without, in his various forms, as if he were present everywhere before my eyes. Text 119. Sometimes when Sanaka and his brothers were absorbed in meditation, they would assume those forms of the Lord. Seeing this, I would relish extreme pleasure. Commentary. The Kumar brothers would often be so absorbed in meditating on particular forms of Lord Vishnu that their own bodies would take on the appearance of those forms of the Lord. This was a special quality of meditation on Tapaloka. It resembled the intense meditation of small insect that is attached and killed by a Pesharik
That's a
bee.
crick bee. I've never heard of it myself.
Bee, and in the next life become a bee.
Yeah, this is known as tat bhava, where the meditator takes on the qualities of what is being meditated upon. And this is also given as an example in the Srimad Bhagavatam. For instance, one insect traps a bee in a nest, and he keeps him there so later he can eat him.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So the bee is the meditation on the captured insect is meditating on intensely. So, next he takes birth as that insect which captured him. So the same way, if in our japa, if we're meditated upon Krishna, of course we don't become Krishna, but we obtain to a small degree the qualities of Krishna. Yep. Not that we become Krishna. So it's called tat bhava. Again, these descriptions of samadhi and absorption, they pale into insignificance in comparison to the gopis. Their meditation on Krishna is so deep and intense that no one can compare to them. Like, for example, when they was imitate that part where Krishna left from the ras dance, I think it was that part where the gopis then begin to imitate his pastimes. The description there is that they actually forget themselves and become one. Not in the impersonal understanding, but that they're so absorbed in Krishna and enacting his pastimes that they forget that they themselves exist. As
So
they become very absorbed.
Yeah, very deep, Murli Prabhu.
Yeah, and that absorption is is fueled by their conjugal attachment to Krishna.
Mhm.
So, Hare Krishna. Mhm.
Here, I was just going to explain just what I heard today. Romapad Maharaj was saying that because his guru had given a mantra that he was meditating on Madan Mohan, wherever he went, he wasn't being satisfied because he was seeing this.
Yeah,
Krishna
that's,
he was going everywhere, but he wasn't being satisfied, you know.
yeah, that's what we just heard. He's thinking of, now he's on his way out from Tapaloka, which is a wonderful place to be, as we heard. But his mantra is taking him elsewhere. He's remembering form of Raj. He is remembering the sweetness of Vrindavan. Yeah, and we've been given a mantra as well. It's called the Maha Mantra, which contains all the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Okay, perhaps we'll call on Mother Gaia to read.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, could you scroll to another
120,
page?
yeah.
Text 120. Even when bereft of such encounters, I remained conscious of the Lord's personal forms, and so had no reason to lament. In this way, I lived there a long time, for the most part, always happy. Commentary. Gopal Kumar says that he resided on Tapaloka happily, Sukhena, but he qualifies this with the word Iva. Sometimes he was less than completely satisfied, as when he remembered Brhad. Text 121. Once, four-headed Brahma came to Tapaloka, riding on his swan. He was on his way to Pushkaradvipa to grace his devotees with a visit. Commentary. In texts 121 through 128, Gopakumara relates how he was convinced to go to Satyaloka. He tells how he first got an idea of the glories of Satyaloka by seeing in person that planet's ruler, Lord Brahma. On Pushkaradvipa, within the Bhumandala system, Lord Brahma is worshipped as a representative of the personality of Godhead. Gopakumara, who knew nothing about Lord Brahma's existence, simply describes what he physically saw. Text
Okay, so
122.
I know that this Puskara Dvipa, this is the only one place that Lord Brahma is worshipped. And that's because of a curse of some type, that he will only be worshipped in one place. Other than other forms, like Lord Shiva is worshipped in many, many places. Even Durga is mentioned, worship in many, many different forms, many, many different places. But Puskara Dweep is the only place where Lord Brahma is worshipped. Of course, I'm sure some people have got pictures of Lord Brahma in their houses and they might offer some puja. Does anyone know that story? Because I can't recall it. Maharaj Kishore, do you know that story where Lord Wise Brahma only worshipped?
I think it was Brahma was starting some yagna, and his wife Savitri was cold, but she was busy getting ready, so she
Well, that was it,
was
yeah.
taking a lot of time. And the yagna Brahman said that the muhurt is passing. Can you come? Can the lady come immediately? So to pacify both of them, I think Brahma created Gayatri, and he sat down.
Took on another wife, yeah.
Yes. And they sat down and they were doing the yagna. Meanwhile, Savitri got ready and she came and she saw Brahma with this, and then she cursed him.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, that's it. So she cursed him that you'll only be worshipped in one place. Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine
It's
that.
not so big. The pond,
What?
well, that the pond, you know, the big pond where the Brahma Sarovar is
Okay.
in Pushkar, it's not so big. It's
No, it's probably
like a
shrunk.
serpentine.
Yeah, it's probably shrunk in size over
Yeah.
time, at least from a material perspective. Okay, yeah, thank you for that, Maharaj Kishore. I was trying to put my mind on that. Yes, thank you. So, okay, you can continue, Mother Guy.
Text 122. That venerable personage endowed with supreme opulences, was reverently worshipped by Sanaka and his brother. Feeling humble, they bowed down to him in pure devotion. Commentary. Chaturmukha Brahma is the most exalted person in this material universe. His possessions and entourage are superior to those of everyone else. The word Brhad here means venerable, not overcome by old age, because Brahma is an empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord. His body is a spiritual product of pure existence, knowledge, and bliss. He never grows old. He is the eldest in the sense that he is the most reliable of all authorities. And as a sign of his seniority, he wears a long white beard on each of his faces. Text 123. He increased the good fortune of the Kumaras by his blessings and affectionately smelled their heads. Then, after giving them some good instructions, he quickly went off to the Dvipa he was on his way to visit. Commentary. Unable to understand what Brahma had told the four brothers, Gopakumara only mentioned the conversation but did not describe the details. We can presume that Brahma told Sanaka and his brothers something about the intimate aspects of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. The word Anushisha indicates that Brahma repeated his instructions a few times to ensure that the Kumaras would assimilate them. Then he continued on to Pushkara Dvipa. Text 124. When I asked the Kumaras to explain who he was, they laughed and said, "Dear cowherd boy, even after reaching this planet, you still don't know who this person is?" Commentary. Laughing at Gopakumara, Sanaka and the others reminded him that he was just a simple cowherd. Even after Gopakumara had been residing for so long on Tapaloka, where everyone is virtually omniscient, could he still know nothing about the universally famous Lord Brahma? Text 125. That was Brahma, the Lord of all lords of the living beings. He is our Father, the creator of the universe. Self-born, he sits on the highest seat of authority. He maintains and guides the created world. Commentary. There are many Prajapatis like Bhrigu who populate the universe and then engage their progeny in prescribed Vedic duties. Brahma is the master and protector of those Prajapatis. Since the Prajapatis are brothers of the Kumaras, when the Kumaras refer to Brahma as our father, this implies that Brahma is the father of them all. Brahma's father, however, is not of this world. Brahma is born from the lotus growing from the navel of the Supreme Lord and is therefore called Swayambhu, or one who is born without father and mother. He occupies the highest post of authority, maintains the living entities of the universe by giving them their occupational duties, and guides them by initiating the study of the Vedas, which teach the principles of progressive civilized life. Text 126. His planet, called Satyaloka, stands above all others. It is achieved by persons who have done their prescribed duties purely for 100 lifetimes. Commentary. As Lord Shiva states in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.24-29, Swadharma Nishta Shata Jamabhi Puman Virinchatam Eti. By remaining fixed in one's prescribed dharma, in 100 lifetimes one can become Brahma or else achieve his planet. Text 127. Within Satyaloka is a Vaikuntha planet where the 1,000-headed divine Lord of the universe is always present as the Maha Purusa. Commentary. Within the realm of Satyaloka is a spiritual planet named Vaikuntha, which is actually an enclave of Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. What's enclave? That the inconceivable Maha Purusa lives there should interest Gopakumar, because that is where Gopakumar can expect to fulfill his desires.
Here is an enclave, a portion of territory surrounded by a large territory whose inhabitants are culturally or ethnically distinct. There you go.
So then it's spiritual. within the material.
Yeah.
Yes. Text
Any-
128.
Carry on.
Although said to be the son of the Maha Purusha, Brahma is non-different from him. In our opinion, the one absolute truth assumes both these forms as a pastime. Commentary. How can Lord Brahma be considered the master of his own planet and the highest authority in the universe if the Supreme Lord of the universe also lives on the same planet? The Kumaras here explain that Brahma is the highest authority of the material world because he is the son of the Supreme Lord, as implied by the word Iva, as if Brahma is not a son in exactly the same way as normally understood in material life. Still, he is the firstborn of all created beings. This relationship between Brahma and Vishnu can be understood only by hearing from the Vedas, not by empirical perception, because everyone in the universe is born from Brahma, and thus all his descendants are too young to have seen Brahma's birth. If Brahma is Lord Vishnu's son, then like most sons, he must be inferior in quality to his father. And thus the basic difference between Brahma and Vishnu, that one is the worshipper and the other the worshipped, must be true. Nevertheless, the Kumaras offer their opinion that four-headed Brahma and the thousand-headed Maha Purusha are not completely different persons. On Satyaloka, the same absolute truth manifests himself as both of them. The Kumaras see Brahma and the Mahapurusha to be non-different in the sense that Brahma shares many of the personal qualities of the Lord of the universe.
Any questions or comments here? Just
It's
close.
very interesting that he smelled their heads. That's what we do to babies in this world.
Yes, yes.
So interesting.
Yeah, and interesting as well because the four Kumaras were a source of anger for Lord Brahma, but it seems like he's forgiven them at this point. You know that pastime, because Lord Brahma is the father of all the Prajapatis. So as we know, the Kumaras were born for populating the universal systems. But then they decided to take up meditation and tapasya and to forego. You know, they didn't want to, they wanted to stay brahmacharis, as often it's said, a simply way to put it. And then, as we know, Lord Brahma became, transcendentally, he took on an aspect of anger from which Lord Shiva was born. But here, yes, well spotted. Here he's great manifesting affection for the four Kumaras. Yes. Okay, can read a little bit more and then we'll call on after that. Kunamai can read a couple more minutes. And then...
Okay. Text 129, yes?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Sri Gopal Kumar said, hearing this, I wanted to go to that planet and see the Maha Purusha. Seated on Tapaloka, I chanted my mantra and focused my attention in samadhi. Text 130. After a moment, I opened my eyes to find that I had reached Brahmaloka. It was so easy. And before me was the blessed Lord of the universe.
So that's Lord Brahma, as far as I can understand here. Yes.
Text
No,
131.
Excuse me, it's the Maha Purusa.
Oh my. Text 131. He was huge, with thousands of divine arms, heads, and feet. He resembled a dark blue cloud and was richly adorned with suitable ornaments. He was an ocean of brilliant effulgence. His navel was beautiful like a lotus. Lying on the bed of Anantashesha, he enchanted everyone's eyes and mind. Commentary. It is said that Lord Mahapurusha has thousands of arms, heads, and feet. But that is just a figurative way of saying that he has an uncountable number of limbs. And although he is huge and formidable, his beauty is supremely attractive. Text 132. As the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, massaged his feet, he glanced at Garuda, who stood before him with joined palms. Lord Brahma worshipped the Lord with opulent offerings, and in turn the Lord amply gratified him. Lord Maha Purusha was also attentive to Sri Narada's display of loving devotion. Commentary. The Lord responded to Brahma's worship by touching him with his hand and showing other signs of affection. The Lord also acknowledged Narada's offerings of devotional songs and music. Text 133. The resplendent Lord Mahapurusha within his guys, please go away. Sorry. The resplendent Lord Mahapurusha within his own most excellent residence instructed Brahma, who sat on the lotus beside him. The Lord patiently explained to Brahma step by step the greatest of mysteries and the essential truth of the revealed scriptures, the path of devotional service to himself. Commentary. After the Supreme Lord received worship from his servants, he went to his splendid palace on the Vaikuntha planet within Satyaloka. There Brahma joined him and sat next to him on the lotus that had sprouted from the navel of the Lord in his form as Garbhodakashai Vishnu. In that intimate setting, Lord Mahapurusha spoke directly into Brahma's ears about the path of pure devotion. The details of this science should be spoken only to persons ready to appreciate them.
Okay, perhaps you just pause there, then we'll call him Kunamai to read. But interesting trying to picture this as a reading, because we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam, the birth of Lord Brahma. But here it seems like there's a particular relationship that Garbhodaksha Vishnu has with Lord Brahma, and they're just hanging out together here. Let's read. They went to the palace in the Vaikuntha planet within Satyaloka. So Brahma's with him, and then he takes a seat on the lotus that has sprouted from his navel. So in that, and then Mahapurusha is speaking directly into Lord Brahma's ears about the path of pure devotion. Now, I'm sure that's probably be wonderful to read that conversation or to hear that description.
So
okay. Yes,
Brahma is on the lotus and the Lord is on the Anantashesh, and they are both talking. Is that right?
Yes. But here, I don't think it's the act. Don't think it's the same occasion as we read in Bhagavatam about the creation of the universes. That's why I say they seem to be hanging out together here. And Lord Brahma's sitting on a chair, which happens to be coming out of the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And they're kind of speaking with each other. It's difficult to picture, but it's not. Because Lord Brahma couldn't understand his source, wasn't it? That's what we hear in Bhagavatam. And because it was so vast that the lotus he was upon and the stem was so vast that he couldn't fathom out its source, which was the Maha Purusa Garbhodaksha Vishnu. But here it looks like perhaps the lotus stem is a bit shorter this time. And they're conversing together.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, Mav Kunamai, you can pick up here from 134. If you're there with us, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hearing these matters, four-headed Brahma, overwhelmed by a vast treasure of transcendental joy, quietly repeated and agreed with each point he was taught, and then offered his respects again and again at the feet of the Lord. Commentary. After relishing the wonder of the Supreme Lord speaking intimate instructions to his devotee, Gopal Kumar turned his attention to Brahma, whom he saw was receiving the lesson with great ecstasy. To show understanding of the Lord's words, Brahma dutifully repeated each point and confirmed that he agreed completely before the Lord continued with the next. When the lesson was over, Brahma profusely thanked the Lord. For Brahma to bow down while sitting on the lotus seat would have been difficult, but at least he showed his respects with his words and joined palms. Text 135. Lakshmi saw that by the force of ecstasy, I had fallen into a swoon. So she coddled me like her own son to restore me to consciousness, and then brought me to the side of her husband. Commentary. Now Gopal Kumar speaks of himself. When the Supreme Lord's devoted wife noticed him, she knew he had fainted in ecstatic devotion for her husband. So she treated him like a son. She touched him with cooling hand and sprinkled him with water to bring him back to consciousness. Text 136. Gazing at the Supreme Lord and repeatedly bowing down before him, I told my mind, today you have attained the ultimate fulfillment of all your desires. Be steady and joyful. Commentary. In text 136 through 140, while offering repeated obeisances, Gopal Kumar preaches to his own mind. Text 137. This abode, free from all sorrow, fear, and pain, is worshipped by the entire world. It is filled with the greatest opulence and bliss. Commentary. Satyaloka is the highest material abode, filled with inconceivable wealth and a happiness unequaled by any other sensory experience in this universe. Greater than any other place in the universe, Satyaloka is honored everywhere. Text 138. Dear brother, this planet shines forth with as much perfection as the Lord of the universe himself. It displays the final limit of complete excellence. Commentary. In the material world, persons and things have varieties of relative excellence. One person has a well-proportioned body, another is charming, another virtuous or powerful. But the world of Satyaloka manifests all kinds of excellence to the greatest degree possible in the material universe. No other place is in any way as great. Text 139. You have felt the affection of Lakshmi. Now see her Lord with your own two eyes. Give up your thought of going away from here and give up your grieving over the cow pastures of Raj in Mathura. Text 140. If you want to be pampered like Brahma by the Lord of the universe, that also you can achieve by the power of the mantra taught to you by the great soul. Commentary. The personality of Godhead is present in Brahmaloka as Lord Maha Purusa, but in Govardhan, Gopal Kumar had met another Maha Purusa, the great devotee who had initiated him into the chanting of Gopal Mantra. For Gopal Kumar to be as familiar as Brahma with Lord Maha Purusa will be difficult, but we shall see how an arrangement is made for him. Text 141. The Supreme Lord turned to his pastime of sleep, and Brahma, sitting on the universal lotus born from the Lord's navel, realized what he had to do to recreate the universe, and so he came outside to do his work. Commentary. The Transcendental Lord never sleeps, but he enjoys his pastime of pretending to sleep. Brahma's seat is the lotus that grows from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu and bears the original subtle forms of the 14 created worlds. While sitting on that lotus, Brahma could see within it the entire plan for creating the universe. Without wasting time, he studied it thoroughly and then came out to discharge his responsibility. He had got down from the lotus, left Lord Maha Purusa's residence, and went to his own. Text 142. I lived there happily for some time, seeing the very wonderful form of the Lord, observing the universe within the lotus grown from his navel, and witnessing the waves of love flowing over Brahma as he heard confidential instructions from the Lord. Commentary. Gopal Kumar was even more satisfied on Satyaloka than on Swargaloka and the planets of the sages. Text 143. During the dark of night, When the three worlds are totally destroyed and the universe becomes a single ocean, the personality of Godhead lies comfortably on Sheshanag together with Brahma. Commentary. After each cycle of 1,000 yugas, Brahma's day ends and Brahma joins the 1,000-headed Maha Purusa in going to sleep. Text 144. The residents of Janaloka and other higher planets praise the personality of Godhead with choice words. I saw these fascinating events by the powerful influence of Brahmaloka. Commentary. While Lord Maha Purusa sleeps, sages from Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka come to recite his glories. Gopal Kumar's previous encounters with the night times of Brahma on the planet of Mahar, Jana, and Tapas had been less pleasant than this. He had been unaware of how Lord Maha Purusa and Brahma enjoy their sleep. Text 145. When the Lord sometimes went elsewhere, he would disappear and I would be unhappy. But that painful feeling would be cut to the root as soon as he returned. Unaware of where the Lord was going, Gopal Kumar was distressed by the Lord's absence. But when the Lord would return after a short while, Gopal Kumar would at once forget his distress and even forget that the Lord had left him. Thus, his feelings of unhappiness on Satyaloka were of little account. The one small reason for unhappiness that sometimes arose was short-lived, and so did not affect his overall mood. Text 146. After I had spent some days in this way, early one morning out of curiosity, Brahma touched a mass of foam and turned it into a demon. Commentary. Gopal Kumar was harboring the desire to become Brahma so that he could enjoy Brahma's special relationship with the Lord of the universe. He thought of this desire while chanting his japa, and thus, after only a few of Brahma's days, Gopal Kumar was given what he wanted. A large residue of foam was left from the previous ocean of devastation, and Brahma touched it, unmindful of any serious consequence. The foam turned into a terrible demon, huge and extremely strong, due to being born from the vast water of devastation. Text 147. Terrified of him, Brahma fled. The personality of Godhead killed the demon, but Brahma, overcome by fear, did not come back, and the Lord assigned me to his post. Commentary. Brahma hid in the place where no one could find him. His fear prevented him from returning, even after Lord Narayan had killed the demon. Text 148. I sent Vaishnavas into the creation to increase devotional service to the Lord. Indeed, I engaged only Vaishnavas everywhere in all responsibilities. Commentary. Material creation is called Srishti because the world and the living entities, rather than being created from nothing, are sent forth, Shrajan, in each new creation. When Gopal Kumar took up the position of creator, he brought many advanced Vaishnavas into his universe and assigned them to the post of Indra, Surya, Chandra, the Prajapatis, and other demigods.
Okay, let's pause there for today. I thought I'd let that go a bit just to hear this wonderful pastime of Lord Brahma. So this is, we've heard this before, isn't it? This was, often it happens where Gopal Kumar, he sees the intimate relationship that a Pacific ruler or personality has with the Lord, and not in an envious way, in any way, shape or form, but he wants to experience that intimacy. He did that with, who was that? Indra, and then he became Indra. Also, he became the king of Puri, isn't it, before that? See that the access and the worship of the king of Puri was very personal with Lord Jagannath. And then he became the king of Puri. He became the king. And now he's seeing the worship of Lord. And conveniently, Lord Brahma has to exit from his post. Interesting story, this demon from forum. So then he's taking the position of Lord Brahma. Right. All right. Any final comments or questions? Otherwise, let's continue next week on this verse 149. Let's see what's going to happen there on after. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you have a wonderful devotional weekend with lots of hearing and chanting, devotional service, and look forward to our hearing and chanting next week. Okay. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Praise Holy Prabhu ki jai.
Hari Ram, Hari Ram, Ram
Ram Ram.
Hare.